Hello, everyone. This is Taina, Ketola, and Sarah Kotz, and we are going to be giving a practical and astrological perspective on the coronavirus in this particular episode. And this is what, if we're looking back on this years from now, this is March of 2020. It'll be, oh yeah, right, that thing. But anyway, so from an astrological perspective, as we might remember if you've been following the channel or following any other astrological information, we did have the exact Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January. And the Saturn-Pluto conjunction does continue to be in operation, although it's never exact again. It's really in operation for most of this year. Now, when I was first making that particular episode, I was thinking, in March, particularly in the second half of March, Jupiter's going to be coming into play with that, and Mars is going to come through and move through all of those planets. So we're really going to be seeing the most crisis-oriented time period of this Saturn-Pluto conjunction in the second half of March. I did not want to say that then because I assumed there would be a certain percentage of people that would start wringing their hands and going, oh my God, what's going to go wrong in March?
Yeah.
Whenever Mars comes into play with Saturn and other planets in certain kind of intense configurations, it's very common for pandemics and panics to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that this entire intensive transit that includes Mars is over on about the 2nd of April. So the most, and astrology is not meant to predict, but to illuminate. So many people look at astrology and they think it's going to tell my future. And it doesn't really do that. It's more about a reflection of what's going on inside of ourselves and a reflection of what's going on in the mass consciousness of humanity that is reflected to us by that greater whole. Because we really are all one. There is one greater being, and that greater being communicates with itself in all kinds of different multitude of ways, and astrology is one very valuable way when we use it properly to communicate with that greater being. Mm-hmm. So if we translate what's going on with these particular planets, Saturn is always about digging deeply and intensely into whatever part of our chart we're working on with Saturn. Pluto is the one that just goes in and absolutely demolishes. Saturn's the renovator. Pluto's the big, demolisher that demolishes the giant 70-story buildings and is just dust and then rebuilds something completely different. So we're having both of those in the same part of our charts. We've all been a little bit more stressed out than usual because we've got both of these intensive things operating in one area of our lives. So many people are thinking, oh my God, I've got so much on my plate right now. I've got all this intense stuff going on, and now there's the coronavirus on top of it.
Yeah, it's so true. People are kind of cracking right now. This is, where we should be trying to tap in.
That's right.
And, not panic.
Yes, absolutely. So important not to panic. So important not to panic. And I will get into that. And I'll also get into more of the practical reasons why we really isn't such a big panic as it seems to be. But I want to jump into the astrology piece first. So when Jupiter comes along, as Jupiter's now beginning to enter into this, Jupiter will also sometimes create these kind of intense panic feelings and blow things out of proportion. It does that to get us to let go of the things we're holding on to that will keep us from facing the real truths and setting ourselves free. So that's one good thing about everybody facing all these different layers of potential fear. For some people, it's almost nothing. For some people, it's agonizing because they may have a past life trauma connected to major illnesses or some other thing that causes them to get really triggered by this. But it's important to understand that you're referencing something else and some other level of fear within yourself, and it's not as big and as bad as it might seem. So Jupiter's going to help everybody look around and say, well, what really matters to me? So what can you let go of now? And there'll be a big relief when this is cleared out, so that then people can have better perspective on this transformative experience that Saturn and Pluto is continuing to provide for everybody. So I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Well, yeah, Mars, when it comes through anything, Mars tends to inflame things. Mars traditionally does rule on a physical level. It rules fevers. It can rule accidents and aggression, like people killing themselves over toilet paper and things like that. fighting
The
over
looting, the
toilet paper.
looting is interesting to me. Like as far as, or not the looting, it's not all just looting, but the hoarding, I guess, is more the word. I tried to go out and get toilet paper yesterday because
Yes.
out. I'm actually out,
Yeah.
and it was sold out everywhere I went. So
Yes.
I guess, is that people being triggered, people worrying
Yeah.
about, you know what I mean? It's probably a bit of everything, but
Yeah. Oh, I
it's
know. A few.
interesting people's reactions, but they're
Yeah.
also taking away even cat food. I went to get cat food yesterday, and they were putting restrictions on because people were hoarding that too. And that's,
Yes.
an animal's life. Like I just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people have, need
Yeah.
to need to think
Yeah.
it through. Stores haven't closed.
Right.
They're still
Yes.
open,
Yes.
but
And they're bringing more stuff in. A friend of mine saw people fighting over the last toilet paper, and they're wheeling in some new toilet paper. And yes, another friend of mine said people really need to know that toilet paper doesn't protect from the coronavirus. It doesn't.
no, and I get that they're thinking, oh, the stores might close, but even, and I could be wrong, someone can correct me, under the video, but my assumption was that even in Italy, there's still some stores that are, and China, there's still some stores that are open. They never
Right.
entirely closed down stores. So
No.
I think there's kind of some misperception going on a little bit too.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Yeah, and it's and people just aren't really thinking very straight. They're just thinking, I've got to be prepared just in case. And the other thing that happens, and this is true of any astrological influence, this is true of anything that's going on, is that there is a mass mind element that enters into things. So that whenever there's something going on a collective level, if we start to buy into some of those thoughts and feelings, the moment we step into that arena, because there's so many other people thinking and feeling the same thing, it becomes intensively magnified.
right.
So I was in Vancouver.
Collective.
I was
Yeah.
in Vancouver on Wednesday and Thursday, and I was on the SkyTrain, and there was this young woman sitting down on a chair, sitting down on one of the seats in the SkyTrain, and she was wearing this big fur coat, and she had goggles on, and she had the mask on, and she had the plastic gloves. And by the way, the mask's effectiveness disappears after just a few minutes, and so does the gloves. These things actually, unless you get very, very special masks, these things don't really help you. But the
Mhm.
thing is that she was so terrified. She was sitting there just shaking and on the verge of tears. And I just thought, oh my God, I wish I could take your fear away from you. I felt
Yeah.
so bad for her. Now,
Yeah, I haven't felt worried, and this is why I posed and of
yes,
course we're in Canada, so we're in the lesser kind of impacted area at the
right,
moment, and we're doing precautionary
yeah,
things in order to social distance and things of that nature.
right,
But
which they're
um,
doing in a lot of
I,
places.
I don't know if it's just intuition or what, but when
I think it is.
I suggested that we talk about it
Yeah,
because it's just you get various reactions to
yes,
like
it's
various
so true.
point of
Yeah,
view.
so to talk about it from a practical perspective, all colds and flus are coronaviruses.
Okay.
So this is just another slightly different strain of a coronavirus. So it people say, oh, the coronavirus, and most people don't have any kind of background in science or biology. They go, oh my God, some brand new thing of coronaviruses. It's this, there's we've had a pretty disease-free 100 years, but there's always been this sense of, well, we're due for a big comeuppance. There's going to be some really bad disease come in. Humanity has the subconscious memory of big plagues and things like that. So it triggers a big fear when people hear this new phrase, this new word, and oh my God, people are dying. The reality is that people die from the flu every year.
Yes.
People are always dying from the flu. And because this is a slightly new strain, our immune systems aren't going to recognize it quite as rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it's going to be a little bit harder on people, just a little bit harder than people than a regular flu.
Mm-hmm.
So, but see, the thing is too, the authorities have to try and slow the spread of it and mitigate the effect of it, because the small minority of people who will get really ill from it will need to be taken care of, and hospitals need time to prepare to take care of them in case. Now, the interesting thing about the astrological correspondences to this whole thing is that because they peter out so intensely by April, it's
Mm-hmm.
still possible that all the countries may manage to get a handle on all of this, and it may not spread absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
But even if it does, there have been tons of people that hardly noticed they had it. but they did have it.
Mm-hmm.
And, there have been people who just go into a high fever and then that's it, because the immune system goes, oh my God, I don't recognize this. And if the immune system is working reasonably well, it will just bring in the huge guns because it doesn't recognize this. And then, boom, you've got it out of your system. It really is the media loves to have something to talk about. Great, now we've got coronavirus. Oh, less work for us. We can just keep reporting on that. We have to come up with new stories. This is marvelous. And, it's a lot easier for their job right now. And there is the need to get certain information out there. It's a good idea to be doing the protocols that people are doing. But the other thing is that fear does depress the immune system. So it's really also important not to panic.
Mm-hmm.
And our own inner voice, our own inner guidance tells us there's really a problem. This is another thing that's important, is that there's different types of fear. And there's that fear that's that crawling, creeping, doom-like fear that keeps building up and all the what ifs. And that's usually a false fear. It's usually an irrational fear. It's usually a fear that's built out of fantasy. When there's a genuine fear is very clean and sharp and pure, and it tells you immediately what needs to happen. It doesn't create this overwhelming, awful dread and all the what ifs and the what ifs. The healthy fear will spur us into action pretty quickly. And our inner voice always knows the truth. So you're sitting there, you're calm, I'm calm. I went to visit somebody who just got back from Japan last week, and I didn't worry about it. I was like, nah, I don't have any issues with that. It just doesn't feel like a problem. And
well, I heard that like intuition is something that it comes to you with relative like calm and ease. You know when you're in a fear space, when you're having the reaction, the trigger.
Yes.
That's not intuition. What would you say though about all the deaths? Like as far as the death, I know we have flu like death every year.
Well, what about deaths every year? Did you say?
Well, I was saying, I know we have, as a result of the flu, deaths every year. When we're looking at 6,000 deaths, I think it's approximately 6,000 deaths a day.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's also contributing to the fear as well, but
it is. Most people forget, because the thing is, as soon as something becomes kind of the norm, then people accept it. I mean, you're probably at least 10,000 times more likely to die in an automobile accident on the way to picking up your toilet paper than you are to die from the coronavirus. At least 10,000 times likely, probably 100,000 times more likely. Because automobile accidents kill an awful lot more people, but we're used to them. We're used to the fact that everybody gets the flu. We know what the flu feels like, and we forget that the flu does kill people. Now, it kills people that are in weakened states or in special situations. It doesn't usually kill people, but it does kill people every single year. A friend of mine and I would share the screen, but I don't know how to share the screen without putting up his identity, and I didn't want to do that. But he shared on Facebook just half a day ago a graph of disease deaths per day worldwide. So this is per day. So the coronavirus, we have 56 deaths per day worldwide. What we have for pneumonia is 2,216 deaths per day. Seasonal flu, 1,027 deaths per day. So, I'm trying to think of, actually, one of the things that struck the chord for me is chickenpox is 12 deaths per day. So right now the coronavirus is killing about 5 times as many people, a bit less than 5 times as many people as chickenpox.
So you think that it's going to ramp up a little bit more in March and then die back down around April 2nd? Is that what we're kind of...
Well, that's what astrology implies. So I don't want to sit down and say that's what's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, that's what it implies.
But that is how things are lining up. And we are, as Mars is beginning closer to all of this, as Jupiter's beginning closer to all of this, the panic element has been ramping up. And so it is all lining up quite nicely with the planets.
Do you see, like planetary wise, do we see like these kind of pandemics being more of a I don't know, more of a thing in the future?
Not necessarily. It just depends on how the media handles things. The media could create these kinds of crazes if they think, if it becomes a habit in our society. But
Mhm.
in general, I don't really see that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I think
think,
it's just helpful conversation just to put things in perspective for sure.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
So enjoy your lives, everybody. Take, if you're socially quarantined for some reason, you're taking time off, use it productively. If I end up stuck, I'm going to actually get some housework done, and that will be a miracle. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
True.
don't panic.
Yeah.